Thanks, Rama. Well, let's get some background on this situation. Sudan has been under U.S. financial sanctions since the 1990s, when it was briefly home to Osama bin Laden and accused of sponsoring terrorism then. Now, one key goal of the sanctions was to pressure the government of Sudan to stop making war against its people. Now, of course, these sanctions have taken a heavy toll on Sudan's economy. We've seen Africa's third largest country isolated from the world's financial systems, barring it from unlocking badly needed trade and foreign investment. Inflation in the country soared to around 35%, and we've seen a shortage of foreign currency hampering its ability to purchase from abroad. Now, the country's economy is certainly struggling, especially since South Sudan, which has about 3/4 of former Sudan's oil wells, seceded back in 2011. Now, the Obama administration temporarily did lift some of these sanctions back in January over improved counterterrorism efforts and certainly progress towards ending the country's many internal conflicts. However, it still left in place some of those sanctions relating to abuses in Darfur and elsewhere. The move was supposed to become permanent today, but it still does remain in limbo. The U.S. did note that Sudan's positive actions were going to help its case, but that was just an attempt to reassure the country. For now, reasons behind the 3-month extension remain unclear. Some say the move is possibly a strategy to extract greater concessions from Sudan, but we're waiting to hear more from the White House on this issue in the coming days. Back to you, Rama.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for that, Uche. Now, let's get you the latest details on what exactly is going on, at least from the American side. Giles Gibson is live in Washington, D.C. tonight. He's got more data on this story. Giles, so what are the specific things that the United States needs another 3 months to verify? What's the proof of non-compliance that it has at the moment?
Well, the Department of State here in Washington has been very clear about the three things, the three areas that they're looking for progress on. They said they're looking for more progress on the cessation of hostilities in conflict areas in Sudan. They're also looking for an improved humanitarian access throughout the country. And finally, they've asked for the government of Sudan to maintain its cooperation with the United States on addressing regional conflicts and the threat of terrorism. Now, it has to be said in this statement that was released by the Department of State here in Washington, D.C., they have recognized that the government of Sudan have been making progress in those areas. They said in that statement that there'd been significant, substantial progress in many areas. So some progress there recognized by the U.S. government.
Indeed. So the Foreign Ministry Undersecretary, Abdul Ghani Al-Naim, he told Reuters a little earlier today that, in his words, and I'm quoting him here, Sudan has implemented what was asked of it entirely. But clearly these two sides disagree on what exactly has been done. So what are the precise facts on compliance or lack thereof?
Well, the delay seems to be more on the side of the US rather than on the side of the government of Sudan. The State Department's senior administration officials have said that this decision to delay by 3 months moving these sanctions off permanently is because the new administration just needs some more time. And clearly there's real urgency, though, on the Sudanese side. The country, as you were saying earlier, their inflation is running at around 35%, and there are serious shortages of foreign currency as well in the country. So certainly on the Sudanese side, there will be real urgency. But the US government is saying, having changed presidents just in the last 5 or 6 months, they need more time to assess the situation within the country.
Indeed. One last question for you. Let's assume, for argument's sake, that the sanctions are permanently lifted by October. But that's only one part of the puzzle. What does Sudan need to do in order to get that designation as a state sponsor of terrorism to be completely lifted?
Well, exactly. That state sponsor of terrorism designation has been in place for many years now, since 1992. Now, the State Department say that the way they decide these designations is that their countries determined by the Secretary of State to have repeatedly provided support for acts of international terrorism. Now, the State Department, they actually produce an annual report into all the countries around the world where they see terrorism, and they assess the levels of terrorism all around the world. Now, by law, That report is supposed to be produced by the State Department by the 30th of April every year. We've yet to see the report for 2016 yet, although I did speak to a State Department official just a few moments ago who told me that report, they anticipate releasing that report in mid to late July. So when that report comes out, we'll see some really significant details about exactly how the US assess the terrorism situation in Sudan as of 2016 and as of the latest figures.
Indeed. We'll leave it there for the time being. Giles Gibson, of course, live in Washington, D.C. Thank you.